All right, we're getting ready to get started. Welcome, everybody. For those who have joined us a little bit early, we'll just get warmed up here. Please let us know where you're joining us from.
Sandy Creek, New York here. No one is going to know where that is.
Right. Just if you think you know New York, keep going further north, and that's where Sandy Creek is, right, Jared?
Let me change it. I'm from Canada.
I know it was Sandy Creek, Utah, so that always throws me. I think you're in Utah, not New York.
Yes.
And Heidi, where are you coming from?
Yes, I'm in Southwest Florida, Fort Myers, Naples, that area. We call it like hopefully the hurricanes stay away area
Yes,
of Florida.
exactly.
No,
the area we all
thank
pray
you.
for starting June
That's
1.
right.
And
That's
us
right.
too. I'm in St. Petersburg, Florida, and in the same situation. So great. And we've got Sarah from St. Louis and Amy from Whitby, Ontario, close to you there, Jared. And we've got Christy from Winter Haven. All right, I'm at 12:30, so I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. Welcome, everybody. My name is Heather Snyder. I'm the president and chief operating officer of the Omnia Group. That's a mouthful of a title. And thank you for joining. This is a new series for the Omnia Group. So for those of you who come to our regular webinars, we have begun a series of welcoming our partners to present thought leadership content. So today I am very excited to welcome Jared Pearson and Heidi Hernandez from PuzzleHR. PuzzleHR has been a partner of Omnia's since 2022. They are just a fabulous group of people, and Puzzle offers comprehensive HR solutions as a service to the same types of customers that Omnia serves. So we just are a nice synergy match, and really enjoy working with each other. And I was so thrilled when I asked Jared if he would do this webinar with us today. Jared and Heidi are going to engage you in a lively conversation. I'm going to step aside and just manage the chat. But before I do that, just a thought-provoking question. And if you're like me, I'm sure you're going to say, yes, sadly, this is the truth. Have you ever faced a challenge at work because someone you were working with had a different communication style than yours? Unfortunately, when we work with one or more other people, that usually does come into play. When I was starting my career, I remember I didn't even realize there were different communication styles. I was naive enough to think everybody thought and acted and processed and communicated in a similar way that I would. So therein lied the disconnect. So thankfully, I got exposed to this kind of learning pretty early on. And I'm really grateful again to share Heidi and Jared's expertise with you today to think about how we can all get better in working through those hurdles. So I'll turn it over to you and to you too. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather. Very happy to be here. Everyone, thank you for joining us today. My name is Jared Pearson. I'm the Director of Learning and Development at PuzzleHR. A little shorter of a title, so I can say it. Add 2 more words to that. I'm not getting my title out, so it's all good. Been at PuzzleHR for about 3.5 years now, and absolutely love what we do here. And just as a quick thank you to Heather and to Omnia. Omnia has been an amazing partner to PuzzleHR. So many interactions we've had back and forth with the fantastic team they have, and with the tool that allows us to take leadership development to a new level with our clients. This is a tool we trust internally at Puzzle, and for all of our clients that trust us. So anyone that's working with Omnia, the confidence is all with PuzzleHR to Omnia for the great hands that you're in. I have an esteemed colleague here with me today. She is my tag team partner. I try to take her in as many engagements as I can because I want to be her when I grow up. Heidi Hernandez, introduce yourself to these fine folks.
I think you've just aged me, and you guys all heard it. You want to be me when you grow up. I heard it. Heather did too. It's so nice to see you guys virtually. I'll say I'm Heidi Hernandez. I'm one of the learning consultants here at PuzzleHR. I come from a pretty hefty background in human capital management, about 20 years. But my passion is in people development. I like to tell people I help people better, because we don't know how to do it naturally. Communicating well, resolving conflict, upping your emotional intelligence is really my sweet spot. So this falls right in line with kind of the lifelong journey of being able to be a more effective communicator. So I'm excited to learn with you.
Awesome. Thank you, Heidi. So without further ado, let me maximize this screen here ask everyone if you can see my screen the proper way. Unlocking effective communication. We should be highlighted. Perfect. So we are here to talk today about unlocking effective communication. And when it comes down to it, communication is one of those keys that you need to have in business. And I like to ask a question here and there as well. And I'll ask everyone out there in virtual world just to think in your heads of those times where communication didn't exist, or maybe it wasn't the right type of communication. I can probably think of an example from today with myself and maybe someone else in this room, maybe with Heidi. We were talking earlier today about getting on this webinar and testing out technology before we started. And Heidi, is it safe to say I was going about 1,000,000 miles a second this morning?
Yes, that's per usual.
Yeah, I'm kind of a fast-paced guy. My pace is quite up there when it looks at the Omnia results. So Heidi had to look at me this morning and say, essentially, slow down. What are we doing? What did I agree to? And it stopped from there, and it made me say, hold on, Jared. Not everyone's brain goes like 7 hamsters on a wheel powering electricity. Sometimes I have to go a little bit of a different pace to help out and make sure things are understood the right way. Because if Heidi didn't have that confidence that she can say, hey, what's going on here? I might not have communicated the right thing to her, and it can lead to breakdowns overall. And that's dangerous in the business world, dangerous in the personal world. So as we talk today, we'll talk a few things. The first is, of course, effective communication. And the importance of effective communication, again, it's everything. If you do not have that right type of communication in business, you fail. I want to see some chat here because I see some folks here in chat. Do me a favor and just put a 1 in the chat if you've ever been in a business where you felt like your communication just wasn't there. Oh, we got 1s already flying through. Look at that. Tanya, Sarah definitely have 1s in there. Bunch more 1s that are going to come through. I've been there before too. And it leads to so many different things. It leads to folks wondering what their purpose is, wondering if the right things are being done, if the right actions are being taken. It can lead to a loss of trust. It can lead to jobs just simply not getting done the right way. And I look at it and I'm thankful for the type of organization that I work in with PuzzleHR, with the huge focus on communication that we have. But I look at it and say, why isn't it that way everywhere? And it comes down to blind spots, my friends, because not everyone knows the right ways to communicate. The old saying goes, you don't know what you don't know. And that rings really, really true. You don't know what you don't know. And that becomes a huge blind spot. And what it does is puts a damper on workplace interactions. When you're engaging with your colleagues, with managers, with clients, your goal is foster positive relationships and collaboration. But if you don't have those tools of effective communication, it doesn't happen. Or spoken in a different way, if you're not communicating the right way, if people have different communication preferences, you might not be getting the right message across. And that's where, again, Heather, thank you for the Omnia reports that we get for PuzzleHR and our internal teams, because seeing those ways that people like to communicate, it just helps out so much to be able to see that and make that a part of your culture. And today, with all that being said, I want to talk about some strategies for improvement as we move forward. We want to explore just the techniques for verbal, nonverbal, maybe some written communication stuff in there as well, that helps us to set ourselves up for future success. And remembering that rule of this message, communication is key. Without communication, things start to fall apart. So you'll have some practical strategies and enhance those communication skills as we go through. Please, folks, as you have an opportunity or as something pops up in your head, I know I can't see you and I can't hear you. That chat is there. We are very, very happy to answer those questions as we go along. That being said, I want to dive into the importance of communication a little bit. I feel like there are say yes, right, Heather? There's going to be a bunch of yeses that pop through in that chat.
There were a lot of ones, Jared, a lot of ones.
Perfect. Love it. So I want to talk importance of communication. And that importance comes with, first off, collaboration and teamwork. So to have effective communication on a team, you're going to lead to that coordination, better problem solving amongst team members, people that can really have a message that they're comfortable sharing with each other. And I talked to Heidi again here for a second because she has just so much insight on all the different things we talk about with communication. But Heidi, I want to talk to you about communication on our team internally here in PuzzleHR. She has the green light to tell the 100% truth. I didn't ask her to sugarcoat it, I'm paying her to. How do you think our communication is overall? And what do you think that does to drive our collaboration?
Well, we have a very collaborative team. And I'm sure if you guys think about your team right now as it stands, you can either categorize it as healthy or unhealthy. We happen to teeter on the healthy side. Now, I will say I've not always worked on a healthy team. This is a rare thing. And Jared has worked very hard to cultivate an openness in our communication, how we approach problems. We're free to disagree. You know what I mean? And he always attacks it with a level of curiosity. So it's very healthy, I would say, Jared. We're very collaborative. You're a collaborative leader in terms of how you lead our team, as opposed to it's going to be this way. I'm very, directional. It's going to be, these are my ideas. I don't necessarily care to weigh in on the team's, insights. That's not you, though. So I think that lends itself to more of a team environment and has created a very healthy environment for us here.
Well, thank you, Heidi. And what I think with all that stuff that Heidi just said there, it really tees up this next thing very well. It helps us to reduce misunderstandings overall. So being that collaborative team, being able to work back and forth to have that level of understanding, we don't have as many delays. There isn't as much conflict, and I put a star next to that, and I'll tell you why in a second. And there aren't really many wasted efforts overall. Now, I said I put a star in front of conflicts. My team has conflict. All teams should have conflict, but the type of conflict we have is healthy. And I know this person isn't here. Some of you may know this name, some may not. Lisa Kernan is one of the learning consultants on the PuzzleHR learning team. I went over something new with her yesterday, one of my brainstorm ideas, and I admit they're not all winners. But as I started to go over this idea, she listened, she heard me out, she understood what I was saying. But at the end, she said, Jared, I have to say, I see where your head's coming from and what we're doing here. But I think you might be moving to solutioning before understanding the whole problem. Can we talk more about what the problem is we're trying to solve for? We have that type of open communication. She didn't quite know where I was coming from or what I was trying to solve for all the way. And that misunderstanding doesn't have to be there because she trusts she can come to me and have that type of conflict. And that's what it is. It's a conflict. It's two people that think we're going in a different direction.
Jared, you just brought up such a good point, and there's some conversation going in the chat right now about how sometimes we think we're doing a great job of communicating as leaders, but we may not be. And that trust and that open will, that freedom to speak up and ask questions works really well when you have that kind of relationship at the leadership level. But what would you say for those who might not feel like that they have that comfort level to speak up?
Yeah, and that is a very situational question. Heather, I appreciate that question. We can answer a few different ways. And it all comes down to the level of trust you have in your organization and trust in the person. If I have a high degree of trust with somebody, like I have with Heidi and like Heidi has with me, we can say what we need to say and there's no issue. If that degree of trust isn't there, you might be guarded in how you bring something up and it might feel very, very uncomfortable. So depending on your layer of trust, you may want to bring up that conversation a little bit differently. And if that trust really isn't there, it might even be starting off a conversation with, hey, I have to have a conversation that's very uncomfortable for me because I feel like we're going in one direction versus another. My goal in this conversation overall is to get something to be better, to improve a relationship. Name what your goal is. So you're very, very clearly communicating what the outcome needs to be versus where other people may take it with stories in their head of the goal is to have a conflict, which should never be that goal overall.
Mm-hmm. Bingo, Jared. Heather, you want to get me fired up. This is the way to do it.
Yeah.
I get so excited about improving communication because I've realized how it's just been a game changer for me on this particular team. Prior to Puzzle, I worked for a larger organization in sales, and I had a plethora of sales leaders, right? Because they get promoted, they move into different, positions and all of that. One of my leaders, who is a dear friend of mine to this day, I did not like working for. I'm willing to say it. I didn't trust this individual at all. And that was it for me. If I don't trust you, you're not going to get the best out of me. Like I might as well look for another job. And so I think at all costs, be the bigger person, especially if you're the leader, no matter what. So he pulled me offsite to Starbucks and said, hey, Heidi, there's something. I don't know what it is. He was real open with his tone and we were curious with his tone. I can't figure it out. We worked so well when we were partners, but now I'm your leader, which is a whole nother conversation. Moving from peer to leader is, not for the faint of heart. So, but what is it? And I just said, look, I don't trust you. I don't know why. I want to, but I just don't. And so it just began like both of our defenses went down because he was the one that was willing to step forward and say, something's off. I don't know what it is. I want to fix it. But he just stated his intentions right there. Now, if you don't have a leader that's willing to do that, then you have to be the one to be willing to be the bigger person. And I think it looks the same. It's the same kind of open, honest conversation. And going into it knowing what you want out of it is really where it starts. What do I want this to be when I leave? Do I want a better relationship? Do I want to fight? Because it's going to show up in how you have that conversation.
I love it. It's like you said, back to what problem are you trying to solve, and just laying the problem out there and now saying I want to collaboratively work through this. So
right.
It's great.
And if I can add one more bit of flavor on the end of it, if your goal is to fight, if your goal is to prove yourself right, prove someone else wrong, to look good, it's not time for the conversation.
And that's not leadership.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bingo. Yeah.
All right, the chat is clear. Keep on going. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. So when we continue on this importance, we look at productivity boosts. So if you have that clear, efficient communication, people know exactly what's expected at all times, you're going to reduce errors. You're going to increase productivity overall and have a team that tends to hum right along as they work through anything that you have, anything that can be tossed to them. If you don't have a clear expectation, if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing and that communication's not there, you're going to see a lot more errors. You're going to see a lot more things come through that, this just doesn't look the way I wanted it to look. Now we have to put more work into this. All about that communication for that productivity to move forward. And again, all about conflict resolution. I think we talked a good chunk about this now in that last question. Absolutely perfect place for that question to be on this slide. And conflict resolution is really all about making sure that as conflict resolves, as we have that conflict, we're actively listening. We're practicing empathy, which is another word in my book for understanding. You don't necessarily have to agree, but you have to understand where that other person's coming from and working to find that common ground. And if you have that clear path of communication, I find it's much easier to do that. So just to give that whole high-level summary here, effective communication is critical, crucial, any other word that signifies the importance for building a strong team. You can improve productivity, reduce conflicts in the workplace, and when you really have a priority on clear, open communication, you can have a big enhancement to overall efficiency, overall success. And by the way, one that's not on here and one that's so important in our society today with how hard it is to really find and retain good talent, you have increased retention of folks amongst your team. I look at my team today and say, could not dream of losing any one of these folks. And if one of those levers I can pull is that effective communication, I will pull that lever all day long to keep my team in place. So we've talked some importance. Now I want to talk something that you look at and say, is this really communication? Well, yeah, it is. It's called active listening. Listening is one of the largest pieces of communication. And not just listening, because listening comes in a lot of different flavors. We're talking about active listening. Active listening is listening to understand something, not to respond. When you're really engaged with that speaker, you want to hear their message overall. You don't want to work automatically on forming your response. You don't want to automatically be thinking, okay, here's how I'm going to react to this. Here's what I'm going to say to this. Avoid thinking about what you're going to say next. Instead, really concentrate on understanding that other perspective. And this is where, folks, I like stories. This is where story time comes into play. I don't know if anyone here has heard of Stephen Covey, the guy that created the 7 Habits for Highly Successful People. I know we love him here at PuzzleHR. My son goes to Mexico Elementary School. They are a 7 Habits school. In kindergarten, they can name all 7 habits, and they sing a cool little song about it. We're trying to make a heavy metal cover of it. My son's a metal guy. So we're musicians in this family.
I love this.
I do too.
As we're sitting at the table one night, Ash has done something that doesn't quite agree with Dad. And I am giving the dad speech. Any other parents out there, you know the parent speech of why. No, this is not good. Finger pointing, finger wagging. And then Ash tried to start to talk. And I said, buddy, it's not time to talk yet. You got to really hear me out on this. And he interrupted and said, Dad, you're not seeking to understand before being understood.
So cute.
And I just sat back in the chair and said, I teach people this every day, and I'm guilty. I didn't do it. So my lesson of the day for everyone here, you're not going to be perfect at this all the time. You might fail sometimes. If you do, recognizing it, understanding it, and saying, you know what, I'm not going to do that again, that's key to moving relationships and success forward. So that active listening and always seeking to understand first, so huge overall in communication. A couple ways we look at active listening: maintaining eye contact, nod, ask clarifying questions. All of these things are being done to not only present to the folks that you're talking to that you're listening and let them know you're listening to them, but because it helps you too. If you're keeping that eye contact and you're looking at people, and every once in a while that nod happens when they're saying something that's a really clear point, or you have something where your head goes, I don't know if I fully understand. You can ask somebody to clarify. That's going to get you all of the information you need to help understand. It's going to let that other person know they're here to listen. They're not just here to reply to me. So I want you to, and I'll leave the PowerPoint up as a bigger screen, but take a look at my screen where I am right now. If I'm talking to you like this the whole time, is that really going to be a distraction? I think so. Heather's already looking going, I don't want to stare at your ear all day. What's wrong with you? Even this way, I'm not really looking at the camera. Now, you'll see me glance to the side every once in a while to check out chat and make sure everything's all good. But for the most part, I'm making virtual eye contact. Mm-hmm. It's important to note that in the world that we're in today, because there are so many distractions on your screens. I've got 3 screens in front of me. I'm telling you right now, the only thing on these 3 screens right now are things to do with what we're talking about here. I minimize those other distractions so I can keep that eye contact, so I can stay focused on you and not be urged to check a message that may have come in from Derek or from Timmel or from Lonnie, because although those things are important, what's important right now is I'm listening to you. I'm understanding what's happening. And finally with this, paraphrase, folks. Paraphrase what you hear. So we're humans. Our brains tend to wander. Our brains aren't perfect. My brain is far from perfect. It's got maybe a 15-second shelf life at best sometimes. Heidi has to reel me in sometimes. Say, come on, back with me. So really, when you're getting into this listening, at the end, paraphrase, reply with, what I heard you say is this, and confirm that you understand what was being said. If you're doing that, you take away so much room for miscommunication, for misunderstandings. By the way, one of the biggest causes for conflict out there in the workplace today is misunderstanding. Somebody didn't understand something the right way, and they took an action that caused the other person to say, what is happening here? And that other person tells a story in their head that might not necessarily be true, and it causes people to be at odds. So if we can just take away some of those key factors, helps out so much. So again, I love to see little chat interaction here and there. Tell me, and put a 1 in the chat, and this is your time to be completely honest with yourself. Put a 1 in the chat if you feel, you know what, maybe I'm not always active listening. And you know what, I'm going to go ahead and come on in the chat and put 1 myself, because I am guilty sometimes too. And I'm loved 1,000% for Danny. Perfect. So this being honest with yourself,
it's hard.
It's a very difficult thing, absolutely hard. But the reason we do it, the reason we need to have this type of self-reflection and say, I might not be the best at this, is because understanding is the first part of that path to really making improvement overall.
Agreed. There's something that one of my peers, Derek Higgs, if you guys have had the pleasure of meeting him, phenomenal individual, but he told me when we were with a client one time, Heidi, I need you to WFA. And I'm like, what is that? And he's like, when you ask them a question, you reword it in like 3 different ways, right? Me always trying to seek to clarify too many times. So he's like, I need you to wait for the answer. That's what WFA is. So I have a sticky note right above my camera. So when I ask you a question, I know now I need to pause and actually listen to what you're saying. This seems so fundamental this is how you actually engage in effective communication, to listen. But Jared, I just mirror what you say. I think 90% of our issues is that we are trying to talk too quickly, or we're listening to respond and we're not really listening to understand where somebody else is coming from. And when you just lean in and tell me more and what am I missing and what else, until they've just been able to kind of word dump on you whatever it is that they want to share, whether it's conflict or an issue or whatever, then you can really understand what you're actually answering, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to the other thing I will say with regards to Zoom, one of the things that I teach here at PuzzleHR is meeting etiquette and how to actually show up really well on Zoom. It is a art in and of itself. I will say the pandemic completely changed our lives, and we didn't realize most people don't show up well on Zoom. Anyone, right? They had to teach us how to do this. And so we have a thing over here called check your face. So check your face before you go onto camera, not just how you look, like appearance wise, but your face might be sending a message that you don't want it to send. And so Zoom can really be your friend if you just kind of glance down at yourself. Like one of my leaders used to say, Heidi, when I'm talking to you, I literally think I have blown your brain right off the socket. And I'm like, no, that's my thinking face. Like I get real intense and thinking I'm an introvert. So I process inwardly. And she used to say, I think I've just lost you completely. I'm like, no, I am tracking right with you, but my face is sending the wrong message. So just glance every once in a while at yourself. Zoom is really our friend. It's like a mirror. Is he scary or not?
Awesome. Thank you, Heidi.
You're welcome.
So we're talking active listening, and another facet that we go into now is effective feedback. And feedback is a huge form of communication overall. Feedback is a gift. You can come to me after any session that I deliver anywhere and say, hey, you didn't hit the marker at all, and here's why. And I thank you for that feedback and take it as a gift to move myself forward and make myself better. Feedback also works the other way too. You can come back and say, wow, absolutely amazing. This is huge. Here's why this is great. Any type of feedback helps folks. Again, you need that foundation of trust to be able to give feedback in the most effective way possible. But when giving that feedback, there's some key specific things we really, really like to look at overall in the realm of communication. Number one, being very specific in the feedback. You're providing feedback that focuses on specific behaviors and actions. You're not being general or vague. And I equate it to, so weird saying it this way, but I equate it to training a dog. Folks have had a dog here before. I know Heidi has Panda. I have Alice in the other room. I know Heather has a dog. We all have amazing dogs. Heather, I'm going to ask you this question. When your dog was first learning to go outside to go to the bathroom like good puppies should, when the dog finally did that, did you just look down and say, good job?
No, of course not. During that first stage, you're like constantly,
Yeah, I'm going to tell you exactly what
rubbing on them, petting them, great job, praise.
Right down in that dog's face. I'm like, oh, he's a good boy, good boy. That's exactly what Heather and all y'all did too. Don't tell me you didn't.
No, we're judging you right now because you're such a softie. We are, Jared. Full judgment.
It's okay. You can judge all you want to. This specific type of feedback, you want to make sure the importance is there. If you don't have the importance expressed, dog's going to go, good job. I don't know what that means. I'm going to go inside and go to the bathroom now. And then you didn't do anything right. But rewarded behavior is repeated behavior. So you really want to focus in on the why behind this. Your feedback really needs to be timely too. Going back to the dog here. If the dog went to the bathroom outside and 6 hours later you're inside, who's a good boy for going bathroom outside? The dog's like, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm going to get pets right now. So I'm going to lay back and get these pets. Doesn't know that it was really important at the time.
Right.
So as we're doing this in business, timely becomes key. Not that we don't have enough brain capacity to remember. Yeah, I remember if you tell me later I did good, but it's not nearly as impactful. And it's like it wasn't important to you. Constructive feedback is so helpful, and it's aimed for improvement. It's not being aimed at for criticism or judgment. Anytime we're giving feedback for somebody to improve on something, which I receive regularly, it's not you're in trouble, you did this wrong. It's showing that care and compassion to say, hey, what we have for a standard is X, and here's where we might be falling short, or here's where might is a bad word, bad leadership word, Jared. Here's where we are falling short. Here's how we really move this forward. You're helping people to be better at what they do, to better themselves. And if you're doing that in a proper way, this is where feedback becomes that gift. And it's always focused on behavior overall. You're focused on actions and behaviors. It's not personality. It's not character. It's the behaviors that are exhibited overall and making sure it stays with a two-way dialogue. Feedback is not me looking and saying, you, this. It's never that. And if I can, I'll share a tool with you we use at PuzzleHR, and this would be a great thing to take down in notes. And I know you'll get a recording as well, so you can look back at this if you want to. But we use a model here called SBI for feedback. And SBI stands for Situation, Behavior, Impact. And when you look at overall what this is, it's not a long process. I'm going to give you a small breakdown of SBI. Let's just pretend Heidi was on a call earlier today and she had a customer that was a little bit crunchy before and wasn't so happy. She knocked their socks off and they are so happy they're staying with us. They're re-signing a contract. Bravo, great job, Heidi. To show the importance of what she did, I'll use SBI to go over that. So the situation is during today's call with our client that was upset. Folks, that's the whole situation. That's all. That is what it is. What's the behavior, the B? The behavior she exhibited was you came with a solution that was absolutely 100% covering their needs. They liked it so much that they agreed to re-sign on the spot. You've helped retain revenue for PuzzleHR. The impact, because of this, we can continue to grow our relationship with this client and get additional referrals from this client to continue growing our business. Thank you so much for what you've done to help. That whole thing that I said maybe is 30 seconds of me speaking. There's one more portion at the end though, and that's always asking for the input of the other person. And that input is, tell me, what led you to get to that result? What process did you go through so we can help recreate that for other people? Getting that person to give that two-way dialogue is so important overall. And it works with the other form of feedback as well. It works with constructive feedback with, during our call, behavior, we didn't show up prepared, and the customer grew frustration with PuzzleHR. Because of this, we may be losing this client. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on where we went wrong, and how can we work together to improve this as we move forward? Not saying she's in trouble, just being very pointed in what we talk about.
It's great.
So there's your tool. We got a tool for the day.
Love it.
That's right.
SBI.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I want to talk nonverbal communication as well. Nonverbal communication is so important. This is a tool that contains more information than you know. Heidi said it earlier with check your face. That is so important, especially in the virtual world we're in today. It's how we have our posture. Our tone of voice is actually included in there as well. It's subtle cues that people see. So if I'm on this call and I'm just the whole time I'm talking to you like this, my head's in my hands, I'm not engaging, I'm not smiling, I'm monotone. All of those things send a message of, I don't want to be here. And then Heather looks and says, we're not inviting PuzzleHR back to anything. In fact, I don't know if we even want them to have Omnia anymore. We don't want to give those types of feelings. But I want to caution you with the stories you tell yourself when people are non-verbally communicating. Because the story in your head may not always be the story that it is. If I'm just looking very blah and I might not be disengaged. I could be off that day. I might not be feeling that well. I had a person where I was in a team meeting many, many years ago at a different organization. And right when I was launching something new and I got through the conversation of this new cool thing that I thought everyone would be so excited about, this man rolled his eyes, crossed his arms, and leaned back in his chair.
Oh.
Yeah, I took that communication and I'm like, oh boy, Gazim, something's going on here. So I pulled him aside to find out what was going on. He loved what I presented. He's ready for the team. He thinks it's going to be great. His phone was face up on the counter, and an argument he was having with his girlfriend sparked back up during that meeting. It was nothing to do with me. So if you ever have somebody in that nonverbal communication is there, versus listening to the story in your head that it's something with you or something they're hearing, if it draws enough attention to you where it needs to be talked about, go in and talk to that person. Let them know what you're feeling and say, just like I did with Gazim, hey, during our team meeting today, when you rolled your eyes, leaned back in your chair, and crossed your arms, the story I told myself is that you didn't see value in what we're presenting, and that I might not have your full engagement for this with your team. Curious to what your story is.
I love that phrase, the story I told myself, because it's again about me now, not what you did, but it's what I told myself when I saw that, and how it impacted me, right?
That's right. It disarms the other person, Heather. You know what I mean? Because you're not coming at it with the wrong tone.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because people commented after you said that, Heidi, about the thinking face. We have people listening that said the same. Like they do have strong thinking faces, and they don't always show that like outward positivity when you're bringing out those new ideas because they're processing it.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
And because of that method and that approach, I didn't damage my relationship. I was this person's leader. I could have gone in and said, you cannot do that. Why would you do that in front of the other teammates? You're a leader here with me. You can't have that happen. And then all of a sudden he says, got it, boss. And that trust is gone. And then I have to start right back over with trying to build rapport with this poor gentleman again. It's like I planned on this slide being the next slide. We want to talk about building rapport. So when you talk about building rapport, there's just a few key things to look at here. And that number one is really finding common ground and shared interests. When you're trying to build a relationship with people, it's not all about business. If you have a shared hobby, it's a great thing to talk about. Employee that reported to me for a while, Nick Anderson, he's a drummer. I was learning how to play drums. We had a shared hobby. We talked about it. It's okay to be personal, folks. And it is okay to show genuine interest in other people, I should say, proper English. Show genuine interest in other people because folks that you're working with, interacting with, this is all applicable to personal life too. Don't feign interest, show genuine interest. And hey, I don't know if you notice, I like to use humor. It's okay to use humor when appropriate, and always use that empathy. Again, you're not going to you're not going to agree with everything you hear, but you have to understand people come from different places. And I want to end this slide here with a quote that's pretty impactful for me. When dealing with people, remember you're not dealing with creatures of logic, but creatures of emotion. That's what we are, folks. We are all creatures of emotion. And that is a great quote by Dale Carnegie. How to Win Friends and Influence People is an amazing book. I know it's written a while ago, but so applicable still for things today. When you're dealing with people, remember that emotion is the first thing that always processes in our brains, and it's always going to be that way. We're emotional. Yeah. I process emotion first for everything. Heidi does, Heather does. See here, Pam, Tanya, Sarah, Amy, Stephen, they all do as well, because that's just how our brain is hardwired. Yeah. It's the way we are.
Right.
So
yeah, I was just going to say, Jared, our team, about an hour before this webinar, had a guest come into our team call, and this individual kind of shared the pillars of trust inside of an organization. And while this individual was talking, I was thinking about people that I don't trust, because it's so essential. If you want to get the most out of me, and it's the same for you, if I want to get the most out of you, you have to trust that I believe in you, that I have your best interest in mind, that I know what I'm talking about. There's credibility in what I'm talking about, that I'm confident, that I can speak clearly, right? So I've just given you some of the pillars for free there. But one of the reasons why I realize that we don't trust people is we don't connect with them. So if there's an individual that comes to mind as I think about, as I'm telling you, you may not trust an individual, connection or a lack of connection is somewhere inside of that, in addition to a lack of clarity in what they're saying. But connection is really rapport. It's just the fancy word of saying, that it really is that you have to connect with people in order to get the most out of people. Some leaders just want to boom right into team calls, and there's always a time and a place for that. But behind the scenes, if you don't really know your people, your relationship is going to be transactional. It's not going to be connective. And if you really want to move into having an engaged workforce, you have to find a way and find the space to connect.
Absolutely. Thank you, Heidi. So we talk a lot of different things with communication, and this is one of the things Omnia is just so helpful for. Talk about communication styles and adapting those communication styles. And one of the ways we do that here at PuzzleHR is we leverage Omnia assessments. Heather, I know I've said this to you on private calls, I've said it on here, but I can't express how important Omnia is to us and how we do at PuzzleHR for how much information it provides.
And I did not pay him to say that, folks.
No, not at all. It's actually one of those fundamental items. Any leadership program we started off in Omnia. We want to start it with that because of how important that this is. And when you really look at these communication styles, it's not about saying that there's one correct style. There's not. So many different things happen with communication that people will understand and hear things different ways. But if you have a tool that can tell you, hey, these are the things to stay away from with communicating with this type of person, or here's what's really going to be impactful, if you can understand that before walking into the conversation, you can know, oh, Jared, I know I'm talking technology right now. I like to go a mile a minute. I'm talking to Heidi. She's going to say, what are you? Stop. What is happening here? I need to slow down. Or she's going to look, and our code word is bleep bloop. She's going to say bleep bloop, and I know she has no idea what I'm talking about.
That's right.
It's all about meeting people where they are in some cases. You may not always have the perfect communication style to talk to everybody, but if you know the do's and don'ts and you know how that impacts people as humans, you can at least work to dial things down or dial them up as needed to really help get on that right page?
I think about it in our team calls because, again, I've shared with you that I don't process outwardly, and I'm surrounded by people who process outwardly, Jared included. I'm literally the only one that processes internally on our team. Like, I'm just thinking. So the great thing for me is that Jared knows this about me and says, Heidi, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this, right? He doesn't let me just sit on the sideline. He wants to know what I'm thinking and challenges me, which I think is a really powerful thing. So now I know I have to be uncomfortable and just share it. And there's really no right or wrong. So I've gotten over myself with regards to that. The other thing that, with an assessment like this, and we do love it, Heather did not pay us to say this, is that I am an individual in terms of my pace that works slower and more methodical than all of my peers. Every single one of them, my friend. So I am the solo one that works slower. So thankfully, Jared knows this and is able to give me more time, right? And say, hey, I'm going to throw something on your calendar, but if it's going to make your brain explode, I'm not going to make you do it. Like, think of that. That's communication at its finest, right? I don't want to stress her out. I want her to be challenged. But if I'm going to challenge her, I have to give her every single tool that she needs so she feels comfortable. Am I doing this, right? So that's effective communication, is understanding someone's hardwiring and really using that to better the relationship,
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Heidi.
Of course.
Thank you. And I talked about technology with this because it's one of my favorite things, but we talk very briefly on this one with leveraging technology the right way too. Are we having effective virtual meetings? Are we really collaborating the right way in remote environments? And are we avoiding over-reliance on digital communication? Folks, I get it. We're in a digital world. I grew up in the times where I was in the backseat trying to communicate with other backseat drivers and wave to get entertainment. And then all of a sudden Walkmans came, and then I had a Game Boy. And now my kids, they can't get off their smartphone in the car. They're 7 and 8 and they can't get off their phone. And if they don't have YouTube for a 10-minute trip, my world is over. We have to leverage technology the right way and make sure we're not over-relying on it. We're having virtual meetings. We've got that eye contact. Remote collaboration, it's about working together, giving everyone the voice on those calls. And when we talk over-reliance on digital communication, I know email's really, really strong. Chat's really, really strong. Text is really strong. Don't forget the power of voice. Digital communication with typing, people, again, they tell themselves their own stories. What tone was this? Why is this person mad at me? When in reality, maybe I'm just more of a direct person. I'm not mad at all, but you can't hear a tone in an email. You can hear a tone in voice. So if you have something where you say, this might be a little more sensitive, use that voice communication still. Leverage digital technology and help you move forward.
Yeah, I would say as a leader.
Back to personality preference. You've got different personality communication styles who are going to prefer written over verbal, or vice versa. I just want to pick up the phone and call somebody, and I'm not respecting that they're in the flow of work and would have preferred I send an email. So I think this slide is so critical to think about who you're communicating with, what's their preferred style, what's the message that needs to be conveyed, and can it be an email or does it need to be a conversation? So I love this tool. Again, just think through those things, and again, who you're dealing with.
I agree. I definitely agree. I think post-pandemic too, Heather, to your point, we got so heavily reliant on Slack and Zoom to just manage a team. And I mean, I have been guilty of coming into meetings and like, what do you got for me? Like this, like they're having a meeting with the side of my face, like you did, Jared, right? And that's not connection, right? That's transactional. So yeah, you have to, I mean, some things can be Zoom, right? And you do have to know who you're talking to, a quick little update. Where's this report? I don't know where this is. But if you want to know, like, what were your thoughts on X, Y, and Z, let's not do that via Zoom. Like, let's either schedule time or, pick up the phone and talk to somebody so you can really hear the tone and see the body language and course correct if any course correction needs to happen.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And folks, we've talked about a ton of communication, and I don't think this next slide is going to surprise a ton of people, but communication all relies heavily on emotional emotional intelligence, that's one of those foundational things that I believe if we don't constantly work to improve, which it can lower itself too, but if we don't work to constantly improve that and keep ourselves emotionally intelligent, we're setting ourselves up for failure. And in my humble opinion, the most important thing on emotional intelligence is self-awareness and self-control. Restrain from that elevated pitch of voice. Be aware of when your frustrations are. Know what your trigger points are. Know those things so you can counteract it before it happens. It's such a more clear path to our next point, which is having a communication-friendly environment. If you don't have EQ, folks, you're not going to have a communication-friendly environment. Sorry to put it so blunt. It's the way it is.
Yeah.
So when we look at this magical little funnel here, that's what that diagram is, by the way. It's called a funnel in our slides. We look at number one, and we have promoting an environment where employees feel safe and comfortable to express their own ideas. It has to be an open place where people know they're not going to receive backlash. You're not going to laugh at them for an idea. They're not going to feel uncomfortable with sharing something, no matter what it is. Anyone on our team here can share anything they want to, and it's a good time to do it because that's how we get our ideas. It's how we become so collaborative. We always have those regular feedback sessions too. Maybe it's in a one-on-ones, maybe it's in an anonymous survey, but through here, anyone can give feedback when they need to. I've had people on my team call me up and say, hey, I don't think you hit the marker on that one, and here's why. And I welcome that feedback as a leader. Managing up, absolutely fine with me, and it should be for everyone here as well. We also provide a lot of training opportunities for employees to improve those communication skills. We give active listening training, conflict resolution training. Heidi does that. It's called heat training. It's amazing what she does with that. And give them those tools to understand how to better themselves and know how to use that voice the proper way. We'll always encourage the sharing of that relevant information all across the organization. Leadership, it's not smoke and mirrors, my friends. Transparency is key. Be transparent. And please, please, please recognize and celebrate employees who demonstrate those right communication skills. You see someone, they're communicating the right way. I call it catch somebody doing something right. Tell them why what they're doing is right and why it mattered so much. Because with all of this stuff, with everything we have here, if we have this in place, we have all of the items we talked about, again, not being perfect from day one, we can foster an environment where we have continuous improvement. Always focus on that continuous improvement where we do a couple of key things. Number one, always assess and reflect on your communication skills. And this is, I asked a little bit ago, hey, are we always clear communicators? A lot of ones came through in that chat. Here's the deal. Ask yourself on a regular basis, hey, did I communicate the right way today? Where did I miss the marker? Where could I have been better? Answer honestly. There's no one in your head except for you. Answer yourself properly. And if you don't like the answer you hear, it's time to work to grow. It's time to work to improve. And sometimes we seek that feedback for professional development. Sometimes we seek outward professional development as well. A lot of folks trust PuzzleHR for that. A lot of folks go to Simon Sinek conferences. People go to so many of the leadership folks that are out there. But seeking improvement in yourself, no matter how you do it, is one of the biggest gifts you can give in not just your lives, but the people's lives that are communicating with you, your employees, your family, your significant other, your friends. All of those folks benefit from you continuously growing as a person and having those right communication skills. So I know we've talked about a lot. I want to wrap up here with a quick conclusion for us and then give a couple of minutes at least for, I want Heather to be able to wrap us up properly and maybe a couple of questions pop through. But in conclusion here, one of our biggest goals, improve workplace, and I'll say overall interactions. It's not just about workplace. All this stuff goes to your personal lives as well. If you're enhancing communication skills, you're going to build stronger relationships. You'll have a more positive work and personal environment, and you'll facilitate a lot more productive exchanges overall. You'll be able to enhance collaboration. And that effective communication really enables that team coordination, you have information sharing that becomes so much easier, enhanced problem solving, and it can lead to an improved collaboration and more successful project or work outcomes overall. And what we all want to do, right? Drive better business outcomes. And in personal lives, drive better personal outcomes. If you're communicating in a clear way, it's concise, it has all the necessary information, it's a safe place, you're going to help influence decision making and you're going to contribute to more success all around. So please take and implement communication strategies. A lot of the stuff we talked about today, take these techniques and really put them into play. Really commit to at least 1 to 2 actions you're going to do that you said in here, oh, that makes a lot of sense, or I need to do that more. Commit to doing that, make it happen and move it forward. You won't be perfect at first, but it'll become comfortable and you'll watch your results grow and you'll see things start to get better in realms where you didn't even know in some cases they needed to get better. Mm-hmm. I know that I'm passing back to Kevin here in a second. There's going to be some communication info on the slide for myself and Heidi. If you have any questions on this presentation afterwards, you want to hear a little more about something, you want to ask a question on something you heard, or even you have a sticky situation you might want to walk through on, our contact info is open. We're not going to send you a magical bill for it. It's absolutely fine. Please reach out. We're very happy to help. Thank you so much for having us here. Heather, my friend, I'd like to pass this back over to you.
Great. Thank you, Jared and Heidi. I really appreciate it. And we do love to keep the conversation going. So here's all of our contact info. We do have a couple of minutes if there are any other questions in the chat. I'm going to pose one because we do have time. Somebody said early on that we're not always the best communicators that we think we are. So if one of us or 2 of us walked away with some ideas today and we're now going to start communicating differently, we may throw some of our people off guard. If I've never really tried to connect with someone on a human level or understand more about them, that could be a little off-putting, right? So What would you recommend for people to just get started and help bring the people they're working with along with them?
I love that question so much. So I have a path that I've taken in the past, maybe not necessarily for communication, but for other things that I've been brought to my attention that maybe I'm missing the ball on. So I will be very open and transparent with the team and say, hey, you know what? I was going through some self-development and a couple of really good questions popped up that made me say, hey, you know what? I'm not quite doing this the right way. So I want to make you all aware of a change I'm making actively to become a better listener, to become a better communicator, and give you the tools you need. The reason I'm telling you this right now is because I don't want to catch you off guard and make you have different stories for why I'm changing a behavior path, but I'm doing this to really help our relationships and make sure we have that right communication as a team to move forward. And if you ever see me maybe not giving you that right communication you need, or I'm not quite following up on this commitment that I'm making to you right now with these improvements, I want you to call me out, because without me being aware of it, I can't continue to get better. So you have that full permission across the board.
That was perfect.
What I would
That's right.
Perfect. As Steve said in the chat, it's unlikely you're going to earn trust if you don't connect with people.
Right.
And yet, if you're just doing it for the first time, it truly could come off as unauthentic or insincere. So being open about what and why you're doing this, and then giving them the freedom to give you feedback and help you on your journey. I love it. So thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. I took lots of notes. I love SBI, situation, behavior, impact. That is fantastic. Again, this is all about understanding ourselves and each other and our team. So at Omnia, we always offer our clients a chance to try it. So you're looking at a QR code here to try your Omnia leadership assessment today to get insights into your style. I hope you'll take us up on that. And again, we genuinely mean it. Keep up the conversation. Contact us if you have questions you didn't get to pose or didn't want to pose in the chat. And join us next Tuesday. We will be doing our quarterly Takeaway Tuesdays seminar. We're offering a webinar on winning the hiring game, and I'll actually be right back here with you. Jared pointed out it is so important these days to retain top talent. Finding them is also very hard. So I'm going to be presenting a webinar on winning the art and science of hiring. So I hope you'll join us. The link is in the chat. Thank you again for your partnership, PuzzleHR. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Heidi. It's been fun. I appreciate you. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, guys.